Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself.
People who talk about spiritual subjects often bring up this concept of being out of alignment or needing to align with your higher self, for instance. But there's often a lack of clarity as to what that actually means. How can one align with themselves? What is the actual tangible solution? Or how do you even describe that as a practical problem? Because what it truly means is there is a discrepancy between what you know to be true and what you choose to believe. But even phrasing it in that way can be confusing because people believe that they know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. But often that isn't actually the case. People can do something and make a mistake, and then you ask them, why they made that mistake or what the logic was behind it, and they'll say, oh yeah, I knew I should have done this, but I did this instead. And this happens to all of us all the time. We all do things or don't do things that we know we should do and do things that we know we shouldn't do. So it's not a case of a lack of knowing. There is some other component that is causing disharmony. And often that sits with the ego. The ego being this character that you have developed. You have developed a sense of identity. You are this kind of person, you believe these kind of beliefs, you think these kind of thoughts, and when new information comes in that directly contradicts that ego or what that ego identity represents, we kind of dismiss that information, or we act to disprove that information. We don't want to accept it. Even though on a deeper level we know it to be true, we don't want it to be true, so we pretend that it's not. And that's really where this lack of alignment comes in, where what we know to be true on a spiritual, unconscious, subconscious level doesn't quite correlate with what we choose to believe on a conscious level. You may choose to do something and your intuition is telling you that it's not the right thing. But if you don't listen to that and you choose to do what you just thought was the right thing to do, despite your intuition, then there is a lack of alignment. Because it's not a case that you didn't know, you must have known. At some level, you must have known, else your intuition wouldn't have been telling you to do or not do the thing that you were about to do. At some level, you must know. So it's not a case of a lack of knowledge. It's not a case of a lack of understanding or ignorance. It's a matter of choice. So to understand the problem, you really have to understand why you are making the choice, why you are choosing to override the evidence that is present. You might be attempting to do something and you keep doing it and it keeps going wrong, but you want to be right. So you keep doing it in the way that you're doing it in order to prove yourself right. I am typically quite a stubborn person, for instance. And if I'm doing something, I will pick doing it a more difficult way, but the way that I want to do it, over a way that I know might work easily or without as much resistance or effort. And yet I'll still pick the more difficult way because that's the way I want to do it. And what causes even more of an issue is the fact that I will make the wrong thing work. So through persistence or through extra exerted effort, I will make that wrong thing right. Which means I reinforce this idea that doing something wrong can still be right, instead of accepting the new information that it was probably easier or better to do it this way, and then learning and growing, and then going, oh, okay, I found a much better way to do it. I thought this was the way to do it initially, but while I was working on it, I found out that this was more difficult than I thought, or it was causing more problems than it was solving. Instead, I'm choosing to fight. And a lot of us who have kind of grown up in this environment where we've constantly had to fight and survive, we will make something work. We will be persistent. We have that kind of warrior spirit, or even just that arrogance to say that I'm going to do this no matter what. But that isn't optimal. Even though you can make something work, you are cheating yourself out of something that could be even better, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow. But because of that pesky ego, we want to be right. So we will do things in the wrong way and still then go, well, see, I managed to do it in the end. I was able to succeed, so I was right all along. And that only serves to bolster the ego. That doesn't actually serve real growth. You're not really learning. Because if you did something, and then as you were doing it, you figured out that it probably wasn't the best way to do it, you could have then learned to do it the other way and then gone, oh, that was much easier or much better or much more precise. But instead of learning, you have then reinforced something negative. And then you have created this disparity between what you know to be true and what you know you will get away with. And people do this often, that they could be in a bad relationship. And even though all of the signs are showing that it's not quite a good fit, or there's some red flags, or there's something that's not quite right, and yet they will believe that because they can make it work, they will create this relationship that transcends all these problems and that they'll see it through to the end, because ultimately they don't want to accept that they may have made the wrong decision in the first place as to what partner they should have chosen. And this only gets worse with time, because the more you are in it, the longer that you are in that relationship, the more you believe that you've invested, and the more you want to be right. And you can't accept that you knew, a couple days or a couple weeks or a couple months into your relationship that this wasn't something that was really working. And yet you really tried to make it work despite knowing it was wrong. And yet at the end, you kind of think, well, I knew this. I knew this was wrong. And yet I chose to do it anyway. So you either have two choices to make. You either accept that you knew it was wrong, you gave it a go, you tried to make it work, and now you have to kind of accept that you were wrong and that this wasn't the relationship for you. There wasn't alignment there, and that maybe it just wasn't a good fit. You weren't compatible. Or you double down. You try to force it to work, and you say, no, I'm not quitting. And you use all these beautiful justifications to do so. You say, no, I'm going to be loyal. I'm doing it because I'm not a quitter. I know that we can make this work. There's all this kind of nice flowery comments around it, but really it's just arrogance and not wanting to admit that you were wrong or that you made a bad decision. And what's tricky about this kind of thing is that there are some relationships that could be true, that you do just need to stick it out, that you do just need to put the effort in and kind of overcome your problems together. So we kind of have that in the back of our mind, using it to justify our actions and using all the right reasons to do the wrong thing. Even though our intuition is going, this is not right. Like, this person is not right for me. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled in this relationship. And yet you still persist. And mostly it is just arrogance. It's because you don't want to be wrong. And we do this in all aspects of our lives. The ability to accept that you are wrong and the time between noticing that you are doing something wrong and correcting it is a huge indicator of how aligned you are. Because if you are well aligned with yourself, it's not that you don't make mistakes. It's not that you don't make errors. It's that when you notice a mistake has been made, or when you notice that something isn't quite right, that you act on it. And another really good indicator of alignment is when your intuition tells you something and the distance between when you've been told and when you've listened and acted on it. The most confident I have ever felt is when I am listening to myself, when I trust my instincts, when I trust my gut, when I trust my intuition. That is when I feel truly aligned, because I'm not living in a way that is disharmonized between how I feel and what I'm doing. There are things that I might do that I know are incorrect, I know are wrong, but I just kind of want to learn the lesson the hard way. But why? If I've already got the information to hand, if I know that this is not the right thing to do, or there's a better way to do it, or I need another solution, or I need a better answer, then the lesson can be learned there. I can already say something in my gut is telling me that this isn't right. I don't need to see the reason why. That's often what we do. We look for the reason, the justification, the proof, the evidence, and we go, that's why I shouldn't have done this. But by then we've already made the mistake. We've already wasted the time just to prove something that we already knew to be true. Our intuition knew that to be true. We knew that our intuition is right. It's always right. So why do we then need to go and make the mistake to then learn the lesson? The more confidence and the more trust that you have in your intuition, the less reason that you have to go and experience those negative aspects. I don't have to see if my intuition was right or telling me the right thing. I don't have to look for the evidence as to why I'm getting a bad feeling on this. For instance, it could be that I am in a social situation and I'm just getting a really bad read on someone. Something's off and I sort of know it. And previously, I would try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'd try to think, well, I don't want to be judging a book by its cover. I don't want to be discriminating against this person. I don't know anything about them. I don't really know them. So, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my intuition's wrong. And I should just see how this goes. And yet, it goes wrong. Or, then something will happen. They'll do something and they'll go, oh, yeah, I was right. I kind of knew this to be true. And after so many reps of this, I've sort of come to a point in my life where I'm like, if I get a bad read on someone, I don't need proof. I will just listen to that and go, you know what? I don't think this is quite a right fit, and we can go our two separate ways. I'm not going to go out my way to kind of make the person feel bad or say anything to the person. I don't know. I'm just going to remove myself from the situation. But the important part is that I don't have to go through the pain and the suffering of being proven right anymore. I can just say, I have this feeling that this is not right, and I'm going to listen to that. I am going to trust my instincts and my gut, irregardless of what evidence is present in the moment. And that's quite difficult to do. In fact, it is very difficult to do, because almost all of society will tell you not to do that, to not trust your gut, to trust what you're being told or trust what the evidence shows. We are told that what we believe to be true is not as real as what you can prove to be true. But in order to prove it to be true, you have to then expend effort and go through the experience to prove it to be true. But I don't need to do that anymore. And you don't need to do that. You can trust yourself. You can trust your instincts. If it turns out wrong, if it turns out that, that person was completely good person and they were nice and you missed out on a good friendship, I would honestly say, maybe this is just the point I'm at in my life, but I would say I would rather trust myself and get it wrong than go against myself and get it right. And so far, I've never been wrong. And this isn't an ego thing. This isn't an arrogance thing, because it's not me in terms of my identity. It's not me saying I was right. It's saying this intuition is coming from somewhere pure. This intuition is coming from a place of divinity. It's God-given. It's the universe telling you that something isn't right here. So I'm not saying I'm right. What it is I know where that information is coming from, and I trust that over anything. If I'm getting a bad read, if my intuition is telling me something, I know it's true. I know there's something there. And the problem a lot of people have is that they don't trust it. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust their instincts. And instead, they fight themselves. They fight those feelings. They look to prove themselves wrong, which is actually like a good process in terms of scientific discovery. you should look to prove yourself wrong, not prove yourself right. Because if you look to prove yourself wrong, you will find the evidence that you are right if you are right. But instead, when people have an idea, they look to prove themselves right because they want to be right. But this is something different. I'm not talking about, trying to prove a theory. I'm talking about when you are living your life, when you have this feeling, when you have your intuition, when your gut is telling you that something is not right or a situation that you're in is not good for you. If you know deep down that you need to be doing something, then you need to do it and not question yourself. Not try to disprove yourself and not try to prove yourself right. Just trust. And that's the hard part, is getting into this mode of just trusting. Just trusting that no matter what, it will work out. And that you need to do things the way that you need to do them. And you might find out that you're wrong, or that you might enter into a negative experience, but there will be a lesson there or something to teach you so that you can grow. And when you're just listening and just trusting yourself, you can then grow and accept those lessons. Instead of going, no, I have to prove myself right, or no, I have to prove myself wrong, you can just treat it objectively. You can say, this is what I felt to be true, and it was wrong. Without condemning yourself or without berating yourself, you can just accept that something that you believed was incorrect and that you can make adjustments accordingly. Because you have been conditioned by society your entire life. You've been conditioned by your environment. Not everything that you naturally believe is going to be true. But you will build so much trust with yourself by allowing yourself to go through the motions, by experiencing life on your terms and making your own decisions without doing something that you know to be wrong or that you feel is wrong. Because that's much worse. It's much worse to do something and then go, oh, you know what? I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. I actually knew beforehand that this wasn't the best thing for me. I felt like I should have been doing something different. That's much worse, because then not only were you wrong, you've also lost trust in yourself. You've lost an opportunity to build that relationship with yourself. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. But it's not okay to do something that is out of alignment with yourself or against what you believe to be true. It's okay to be wrong, not to do something that you know to be wrong or that you feel is wrong, because that's going to reinforce that lack of trust. That's going to break down your confidence. Doing something that you feel is the right thing and getting it wrong will not destroy your confidence. That will just help you improve, help you learn, and help you grow. So it is always better to trust your intuition. So trust yourself. Start building up that confidence. Start looking for those opportunities to reinforce that trust with yourself. And don't second guess yourself. Don't create opportunities for doubt or worry or concern. Because the second that you start thinking about it, you have already stepped out of your intuition. You've already lost that raw feeling that you knew to be true. So stop doubting yourself and start trusting yourself. Thank you for listening.